Welcome to the Disenfranchised Podcast. We're that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. And this is the season 3 finale of the Disenfranchised Podcast. That's it. 3 years of this bitch up in your ear holes. And that's a thing that we're going to celebrate tonight. And we're doing it with a very special episode. I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy. Joining me, as always, is the man who wears the skinniest jeans possible before entering the moose knuckle stage. It's my co-host, Brett Wright. Hey, Brett.
Hello, Stephen.
How we doing, buddy?
That's the weirdest fucking intro you've ever given me. I don't really know.
I just, that's
I like it, though.
That's just one of the rules for not being a reject is, wear the skinniest jeans possible before you hit the moose knuckle phase. It's just what it is, man.
Sure.
He's not wrong.
I mean, there were plenty of other rules you could have gone with, but
I know I've got other ones for the other guys, but I don't know. Look, you can take any of these other ones if you want. Next is the man whose lack of faith in the durability of Kesha is disturbing, to say the least. It's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
I'm Tucker, and I'm a bitch.
Yeah, we know. Beauty,
intelligence, talent, charisma, hoopastank. What's up, Steven?
They're good.
What? Come on, right?
They're good.
No, I don't care for hoopastank, honestly, but I love their name. It's probably one of the most fun words in the English language to utter.
But Tucker, they found a reason.
Sometimes I'm like, hoopastank.
They found the reason to start over new. And you know what, Tucker? That reason was you.
That's not even one of their good songs.
It's one of their bad ones.
I don't care.
Yeah,
it's the one I mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't care. And we, of course, are not alone. We are joined by the first guest this podcast ever had. The man who's taken up a sick writing style and who refuses to be a fashion victim. You know him as the guy who's been doing this for so long. He is also the architect of the Endless Elsewhere universe, including the upcoming film Circle City Supernatural, starring all of us. Welcome back to the podcast, Mr. JP Leck. Hey, Joe.
My brothers, how are you? Stephen, Brett, it's so nice.
Have you met Tucker? Have you guys met before?
Stephen, you seem like a nice guy. We'll be right there. Stephen, Brett, could you guys join me over here for a second? Just
sure.
Over here.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, now we're just alone. What's going on, guys? I go away, I come back, suddenly there's a third host. And please don't tell me you hired the Pootie Tang guy?
Yeah, we did.
Whose idea was that?
I didn't hear you!
Hey, Tucker, it's okay, man. We'll be right there. We'll be right there, dude. It's okay. It's all right. So yeah, it was weird. Brett, you and I
begged us. He begged us. Okay,
he did.
We had
you guys promised me that I could be the third host if there was ever a third host.
I mean,
I walk in on you guys.
You were kind of busy.
In bed with the Pootie Tang guy.
Look,
Pootie Tang guy.
You've been so busy, dude. You've been making a movie, editing a movie, submitting it to festivals, getting streaming rights, Blu-rays, commentary recording, which we can't be a part of for some reason.
And then Tucker had nothing going on.
He literally, the man is free all the time.
I get it. He understands you. I get it. He's there for you when I can't be there. I understand. I've let you down, and you ran into the arms of what is clearly a very handsome, young, intelligent man who's probably improved the show quite a bit. I can only speculate.
Something like that. We do consider him a discount JP Leck, but in this economy, sometimes a discount is what you can afford. So,
I honestly think you're better off. No, bit over. Tucker and I, for everyone listening, have been friends for 20...
30.
Seventh grade, you and I joined forces and never looked back.
Yeah.
However,
I was in
closer to 30 years. 7. Well, you're always a year. Well, you're older than me.
Yeah, I'm always a year older than you, man.
You're always so much older.
Every day I'm a year older than you. You're never gonna catch up.
One of these days. Ooh, one of these days.
Dude.
Oh, I am right on your heels. I'm right there. I can smell it. One day you're going to wake up. You're like, I don't feel quite as old as I felt yesterday.
This is great.
He's going to find a time-traveling bear, and he'll fix it.
Yes.
Well done, Brett. Well done, Brett.
Bringing it all together. Full disclosure, Tucker would never have even guessed it on this podcast had Joseph not been on it first. I am fully convinced of that. I think Joseph did a couple episodes, and then Tucker was like, wait, you're on a podcast? I want to listen to that. And then he started listening and became a fan. Paradoxically became a fan, and then became our theme writer and our editor and our third host. So in that order. But yeah, it's wild. Yeah. Crazy times.
And the rest is history.
The rest as is. But this is the first time you guys have actually been on an episode together, and that's exciting.
It is exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah. And it's exciting because this is it is one episode shy of our sesquicentennial episode. That'll be next week, our 150th episode. And it is
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I didn't realize you guys were up that high. Well done. Yeah, well done, you all.
We've been at this for 3 years now. And honestly, we would have hit that a couple weeks ago, but we had some filler episodes because life finds a way.
Oh, I understand.
We've had to take a few weeks off over the course of the past year. But hey, we made it. It's the end of our third season. And because it is the 5th Thursday in a month, it's a Tucker Takeover episode. And so we have given the reins of this episode over to Tucker, who insisted not only that we cover this movie, but that you, Joseph, be on to discuss it with us. And so, Tucker, what movie have you inflicted upon us today?
Today, we're talking about Detention.
We are talking about the 2011 or 2012, depending on which release date you go with.
Who you ask, yeah.
Right. We'll get into that. Joseph Kahn film, Detention, starring Josh Hutcherson, Shanley Caswell, Spencer Locke, Aaron David Johnson, Walter Perez, Dane Cook, Erica Schaffer, Tiffany Boone, and many, many others. Including a cameo by Ron Jeremy.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
What a cast.
Sad
what
point.
A picture.
Indeed, I can agree with that. What a something.
I don't know Tucker, you look like you're about to explode. I'm sure you have a lot to say. Kick us off.
I was going to say, honestly, we could probably just hand the reins of this episode over to Tucker, and he would
put his hands together. There's literal smoke coming between his palms.
He'd go on for 3 hours uninterrupted. The three of us, honestly, we could probably all just unplug and take a nap, and Tucker will just take it from here. Honestly,
what's that? My history with this film? Well, let me tell you.
Why this movie, Tucker?
I watched a YouTube video 2 years ago. I don't remember even what YouTube channel it was on, talking about this movie. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I immediately rented it and watched it 4 times in one day.
A totally normal, not insane thing to do.
As a person who has known Tucker for 30 years, he's not exaggerating. That's not hyperbole. That's when he says he watched it 4 times in a day. No, he means that he watched it 4 times in a day. I can put my stack of Bibles and attest to this.
I was going to say that's maybe the most believable sentence that he's uttered all night.
Yeah, I've only known him 3 years, and I know he does that.
Right.
I met him 30 seconds ago and already know.
And this is one of those movies that as soon as it started, I got probably about 15 minutes into it. Maybe after the credits, because those credits, man, you got to give credits to those credits. Boy, those are some fun opening credits.
Incredibly creative, incredibly
creative. The opening sequence is even really, I thought that was just delightful. I had a lot, very Happy Death Day meets Deadpool kind of shit.
I loved the stuff with Riley at the beginning where she brings her hand up and it's all red, and everyone, including her, is assuming it's period blood. And she's like, oh, great. And it turns out to be just like some French fries with ketchup she didn't finish the night before.
That she just threw her covers over her. Yeah.
Just little shit like that just goes nowhere, has no purpose, but just, or like when she's killing herself and decides not to because her favorite song comes on. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Trigger warning for this movie. There will probably be some self-harm talk as it relates to the plot of this film.
But treated with the utmost of delicacy.
Yes, every time.
Does this film treat anything with delicacy?
It sure doesn't. It sure doesn't. It comes in with a sledgehammer and doesn't let go. It
comes in like a wrecking ball. It really, truly does. No, this is. See, I did not assume period blood. I assumed, because the scene before we just saw someone get, killed with a knife. So I was assuming, oh, is she killer? And then no, is Fries. Yeah.
Yeah, I assumed actual blood of a victim as well.
Right.
So weird that you jumped to that, Tucker. That's
interesting. Wild.
Weird. It's really weird, man.
He has watched it 5 times more than any of us.
That's true.
So, 5?
I've watched it probably 75 times more than all three of you combined.
That tracks, actually.
As I watch this movie at least a couple times a month, because it's so easy just to throw on and sit down and just take the fucking ride, man. It's a real easy movie to watch. There's nothing difficult at all about this movie. You just breeze right through it. It's beautiful. It's a tight 90. It's a tight 90.
If you want to try to like parse it out and understand it, it might take you a little longer, but
that's why you watch it multiple times in a row.
So, Tucker, you've watched it a million times.
Yes, at least.
Do you feel like you better understand the movie? Because it is a little convoluted, to say the least. Do you feel like you have a better hold on it, or do you feel like it's absurd for the sake of being absurd?
It feels a lot less convoluted when you do watch it a lot and consistently and consecutively, because everything in this movie goes by so fast. That as soon as you think you have a hold on what's happening, it goes in a completely fucking different direction. You don't even remember where you were when you went there.
Yeah, this movie. It defies genre because it is every genre.
Absolutely. It's basically disenfranchised the podcast, the movie, with all the tangents it goes on. But still somehow really finds a way to come back to the story and keep it moving. Somehow. We don't know how.
I mean, even when we're able to do that on this podcast, we don't know how. It defies
logic. I understand more and more about the plot and about the things that happen and the setups and the payoffs, of which there are far more than you could ever imagine, having only watched it once. Far more than you could ever imagine. So much shit, so much little tiny shit happens in this movie. And it's not like in a lot of movies where they'll have little Easter eggs, like something in the background and you just notice it one day. No, it's shit that's just out there right in the open, but it all goes by so fast, your brain doesn't have a chance to grab onto it and keep it in there.
This movie is ADHD, the film. Like it is it is to borrow the title of another movie. Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Right? They missed the boat on that title for real.
If they had called this movie by that title, it would have absolutely fit somehow. Like Detention almost feels like a misnomer for this movie. Calling this a horror movie feels like a misnomer for this movie.
Well, it doesn't even really turn into a movie that you could call Detention until about 2/3 of the way through.
I noticed that. Yeah.
I also noticed that. Yeah.
So I think they just didn't know what to call it.
Hang on. Brett, did you notice that?
Yes.
Thank you. We may continue.
Well done.
So I saw this movie for the first time earlier today. I'm assuming the rest of you, Joseph, Brett, watched this movie for this podcast. Yes.
Yep. Last night. Had never seen it before.
Yep.
Right. So Tucker dragged this in front of our faces, as he does most of the movies that take over these fifth Thursday Tucker Takeover episodes. Just a movie that we've never really seen before, and
I didn't know this movie existed
until we brought it up. Neither did I.
We've clearly gotten Tucker's reaction to it. What did you guys think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it?
I don't know.
Somewhere in the middle.
I didn't know what
right?
to think.
Who knows?
It took me like a day to process it.
Has anyone else here seen John Dies at the End?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I have.
The Don Coscarelli movie. Of course you have, Brett. Thank you. I liken this movie to that movie, where there is like...
I've heard that comparison, yeah.
Have other people made that? Okay, good. I'm not the only one. It's there's so much about it that I very much liked and so much that I very much did not. And it wasn't like the first half was great and the second half was great. It was like, it was all just kind of, it's like every 5 minutes there was something that I really, really liked. And then, the next 5 minutes, something not so much. But it was, ultimately, I think I did enjoy it more than I disliked it. So, Tucker, I know you were really wanting me to get on board with it, and I'm mostly on board. This is clearly not exactly a JP Leck kind of speed movie.
Oh,
but,
no,
but
I know it is, but the reason I wanted you on here is because you were my very first and remain my closest movie buddy.
Where are we going with this? Okay. Yes, movie buddy. Yes.
That's where we're going. That's where we're going.
So when I find something as
your secrets are safe, don't worry,
earth-shattering to me as this film, it's obviously, whether I think you're gonna like it or not, it's something I have to share with you.
Which I absolutely I adore you for that. You have brought so much to me that I would have never found otherwise.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, yes. Sometimes it's great, sometimes not so much.
Give us some examples, Joseph. What are some things that Tucker has put in front of your face that you would not have come upon otherwise?
We were just discussing, what was it, the Salton Sea? We were just talking about that in the Patreon thing that we just did. The Salton Sea is a really good one.
Pootie Tang.
The aforementioned Pootie Tang, of course. I do love Pootie Tang. I think I liked it more than Stephen and Brett did. I listened to that episode. I think I liked it more than you guys did. But man, going all the way back to 7th grade, this is the dude that introduced me to George Romero and Sam Raimi. I actually was recording the director's commentary for the film, which I'm sure we'll discuss later in the episode.
We absolutely.
But I credit Tucker as the possible reason for my film even existing, because he introduced me to this whole world 30 years ago. So let that be a testament to the importance and the the longevity of our relationship. He's
so
not
it's
very
your fault. You're the guy. I see.
You're the guy. So if anyone wants to blame
anybody, officer, this one right here,
take him away. Okay, so that was my take. Stephen, was that your actual answer? If you honestly don't know what to think of this movie?
I mean, it's a lot. Like it is a lot. It's dense as fuck. Like there's just so much happening in this movie. It feels as if there's not a frame wasted in the construction of this film, really, at all.
Absolutely.
There's just
I can't
so
imagine
much.
There's any deleted scenes. What could they have deleted? It's all there.
That's
And even though I didn't love most of it, it's so visually compelling. Like as soon as I started it, it hooked me, and I never looked away. I never got on my phone. I never got bored and distracted with anything else. It really ropes you in, and it keeps hold of you until the very end.
You have to respect the intricacy of the thing. Like it feels like clockwork, and there are these moments within it that you think are kind of these throwaway moments, but they circle back. There are these moments where you find yourself looking at something in a different way than you did before, things that they drop in that you're like, that's going to be important later. And then you find out, in fact, oh yes, it is important. Like Chekhov's bear blowjob. That's a thing that comes back in this.
I knew
movie.
I recognized that ass.
Like it's one of those things that if you bring up a girl giving a bear a blowjob in the first act, you've got to pay that off in the third. That is that thing that Chekhov famously said in his, I don't know, some essay that he wrote. That's kind of like one of those famous theories,
verbatim,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. But like that's that. I mean, but there's so much of that. Like it's compact, but as unfocused as it seems on the surface, and it is a frenetic, madcap, frenzied ride from start to finish. There's a through line there. There's a theme. There are things that this movie is saying about 90s cinema, 80s cinema, nostalgia, the way in which we engage with art from previous eras, the way in which we digest and communicate with each other about that art, things that I've been kind of digesting and working through myself over the course of the past few years. And to see some of that kind of reverberating back as I watch this movie was really gratifying. that someone is saying this stuff in 2011, the year before Avengers comes out, that these ideas are being, kind of put forward. And it feels even more prescient in that context than it does now. Like, because it's saying those things then, before, the MCU became what it is. Like, it feels very prescient in that way.
I'd like to mention that this film came out the same year, depending on who you ask, as The Green Hornet and Green Lantern. And
the last two movies we talked about on this podcast.
As much of a Green Hornet apologist as I am.
And you are. We discussed this last week.
This is clearly the victor of those three. This is clearly the movie that has the most heart, I think, that has the most dedication from everybody involved. Like, everybody has to be firing on all cylinders to make a film like this work. You can't have anybody slacking. Nobody is over in the corner on their phone. Everybody's at 11 making this movie.
They are, absolutely.
Well done to everybody, because you can't pull this off. Even if some parts don't work for you, you can't deny that this movie works. Like, it gets from the beginning to the end somehow. In a way that you've never seen a movie do before.
Right. And the stops that it takes along the way, like it uses genre as a playground. Like, this movie does not fit. It was marketed as a horror film, and I think that's part of the reason why it was not able to find an audience. There are horror elements here.
Do you market this as, though?
You don't. That's the problem.
People just have to find it and use word of mouth, because there's no way you market this movie.
This movie is unmarketable. Like, there is no world in which this movie
did this have a theatrical release?
So limited. It doesn't even make a blip on the box office scale. Like, I'm looking at the numbers right now, and this movie has no box office imprint or footprint whatsoever. Like, domestic box office is not applicable, like, not available. They don't have it. But it did get a theatrical release. It was screened at South by Southwest in 2011, which is why it's got the 2011 date. But it didn't actually get released into American theaters until mid-April of 2012, the following year, which is why we have that depending on who you ask caveat, because, I mean, technically any film that has a festival release in a given year, that's the year that it technically came out. But then if it has a wider release or even a limited release the following year, that's kind of how they reckon it. So 2011 or 2012, depending on who you ask. But yeah, that's kind of the what's going on there. But yeah, this, you don't really market this movie. It's one of those movies that kind of defies any kind of explanation. And I thought, so I asked Tucker, like, what genre is this? And he's like, I don't know. And I thought he was just like BSing me or gaslighting me or some shit. No, it's impossible to define what this movie really is, because it is everything, everywhere, all at once.
They must have known from the start that they were making something that was like destined only ever to be like a cult film. It's it's just one of those movies you discover, or your friend tells you about it, and you're like, what is this weird artifact? What planet did this come from? And I imagine, does it have a pretty big cult following?
No,
because again, I had never heard of this movie.
It's a cult movie for sure.
It starts tonight.
Time is gonna come.
Okay.
Yeah, this you're witnessing the beginning of the Detention Assance right now.
Like whether I intend to or not, sometimes I can be a bit of a trendsetter. And so I'm hoping the fact that I've seen this film and I'm telling people about it, hopefully that will make it a bigger
platform
deal
to talk about it. Yeah.
Once again, as Tucker's friend of 30 years, I can attest to his trend setting. He's not blowing you smoke. He has a tendency to be like, hey guys, this thing. And we're like, what? And then 10 years later, we're all like, hey, this thing. And he's like, yeah, I tried to tell you like 10 years ago. I remember in high school being in Denny's and him being like, Johnny Cash. And we're like, the country singer? Who cares? 20 years later, the world, Johnny Cash, yeah. Like, the whole new generations that discovered Johnny Cash. Like
all it took was him covering 9 Inch Nails and Depeche Mode, and next thing you know, everyone fucking loves the guy. So
exactly. Anyway, Tucker, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
I don't remember.
Sorry, I derailed you. My bad.
That's okay. I forgive you.
I mean, you haven't listened to...
What do you have to say, Brett? No. Oh, Brett's refusing to speak to us. Brett?
What is this?
What
are these hand gestures he's giving us?
We offended his great ancestors.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, I guess we'll talk later, Brett. Jeez.
But no, again, like you can't market this movie. This movie defies explanation. I was listening to some like reviews and things after I actually watched the film this afternoon. And one reviewer said that when he first saw the movie, his friend was like, "Hey, we could watch this movie called Detention." He's like, "Well, what is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's this movie. Dane Cook's in it. We should watch it." And that was all he said. And that's kind of all you can say about this movie, although the Dane Cook of it all might not come across as great these days. But I mean, according to Joseph Kahn, he discovered Dane Cook before anybody else. He put him in Torque before literally anyone outside of Los Angeles even knew who Dane Cook was. So according to Joseph Kahn,
Mystery Man, though.
Dane Cook owed him a favor.
So the director of this did the motorcycle movie Torque as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
What else? What else is in his
line? There's the line in the movie where they're talking about the time machines, and he says, "Yeah, that's about as stupid as the plot of that movie Torque."
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. I don't know that at all.
Early
that's
line
funny.
in the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a music. No, he's a music video guy. So he's done
obviously
so many music videos.
Okay.
But in terms of like film, I think it is Torque, then this, and then a 2017 movie called Bodied. And I think that's it. He was the director of that Power Ranger short film with James Van Der Beek and
the Dawson.
The Dawson and Katie Sackhoff. He was the director of that. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
He still is pretty busy doing music videos too. Like that's still his main thing.
Yeah,
he's not somebody who like stopped doing music videos to make films. He just makes films every once in a while in between music videos.
Correct. Okay. Like his most recent credit is the Mariah Carey Christmas special, Merry Christmas to All. And he's currently in pre-production on something called The Peak of My Heart, which looks like it actually might be a film. But no, he's done music videos for Jamiroquai, Nicki Minaj, Taylor Swift, the Jonas Brothers, Mariah Carey, DJ Khaled, like the list goes on. He's directed television. He's directed episodes of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Happy. Just so many things. Like the guy is just like a prolific director for hire kind of guy. And I think that's very much wrapped up in this movie, because this movie he does a little bit of everything. Like you can tell a cinephile made this movie, like a guy who genuinely, legitimately loves movies constructed this thing. And it's great for that, I think. But yeah, he's got a lot of directorial experience, but most of it's in music videos. So
okay, that tracks. That makes quite a lot of sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean but we've covered Torque. I don't know if Bodied is even a movie we can cover on this podcast.
I don't know, but it's on Tubi, and Detention's on Tubi now. This is the first time I've seen Detention streaming anywhere. Like obviously you can rent it and buy it, but not like streaming on a streaming service. This is the first time. I think all three of his films, for some reason, all three of his films are on Tubi now.
Oh, interesting.
Torque, Detention, and Bodied. So I'm going to watch Bodied.
I was going to say, I feel like I should watch Bodied so I can finish out his filmography.
I know. I'm about to watch it too, for sure.
It's got Charlemagne the God, Deborah Wilson, like Anthony Michael Hall's in that movie.
It's got some cast members from this film as well.
All right.
I believe
Walter Perez.
Is that the kid who made the Bear a Time Machine?
Yes.
The kid that's trying to get with the goth girl?
20 years. Oh, no, that's...
No, the kid I'm not trying to define by his race.
The guy who plays Toshiba.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
I feel like they named him that just so that Dane Cook could make the Hitachi joke later.
There's so many good jokes in this movie, you guys. So many that you didn't even notice. That's what I'm saying. You got to watch it a whole bunch of times, guys, over and over. I'm not talking about like once a month, once a year. You got to watch it like 3 or 4 times in the same day, 8 times a week, shit like that. And then it really opens up. It really opens up. and become
I told
something
you
altogether different and beautiful.
I told you when you said that last night that was not going to happen, and I can't imagine I can't imagine I will have a full day on my hands to just watch that movie multiple times. I really don't. I can't see that happening.
But I'll bet you kind of wanted, when it was over, I'll bet you kind of wanted to start it over again. Maybe just a little bit. Like there was
a small part of me that was like, I could probably force myself to watch that again.
I confess, I felt that impulse as well. I was like, okay, I could start that over, and I would probably appreciate it all the more.
But just because it was right,
like
but just because it was so dense,
and just live your day.
I don't think I could do that
because it was so dense. Yes, exactly. It was like Tucker said. There's just so much going on. It's probably much more appreciable on repeat. So I may check it out again at some point. Maybe
dude,
not 8 times a day. 8 times a week or whatever. That's
oh, craziness. You know what would be cool? What would be cool is sometime in the future when we have $1 bajillion and we do charity stuff, we could do some sort of charity thing where we can see who can watch Detention the most times in a row and like somehow benefit charity in that way. Wouldn't that be rad, you guys?
I think that's just gonna be you.
I would win. But
yeah, we know there's no competition there, like at all, like whatsoever.
Toothpicks on my eyelids, just sitting there for like weeks.
Just Malcolm McDowell your ass, yeah. Oh God, what a horrible existence for you! I feel so bad for you for even suggesting that for yourself. I know you are. That's why I feel bad, Tucker, because you're way into it. You don't understand. This is pity on my face, sir.
Oh, I appreciate that. Sure do love me some pity. I'd love for us to do the plot.
Can we?
I'd love for that to happen.
There's a plot?
Because
this movie, there's a plot?
Here's the thing. Usually our guest agrees to do the plot in 60 seconds. And I know historically our good friend Mr. JP Leck here has agreed to do that. But I wonder if he's up to the challenge on this film. I just wonder.
Up to the challenge? No. Will I say a bunch of things into my microphone while you guys are timing me? Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
And that, sir, is one of the many reasons why we love you.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and get 60 seconds on the clock. And while I do that, I will recount to the audience what this segment even is. This is called The Plot in 60 Seconds. This is where we recount the plot of the film we're watching, in this case, 2011 or 12's Detention, in 60 seconds or less, or your podcast is free. Yay. It's free either way. If you want to pay us, go to patreon.com/disenfranchpod. We usually flip either the Canadian Quarter of Indifference or the D6 of Destiny in order to determine who of us will recount the plot. I can tell it's been a while since you've listened to this podcast, Joseph, because you had no idea what those two things were.
Yep. Go on. Don't slow down for me.
No, it's fine. It's all good. I moved, we added a third co-host. It's been a whole thing. The show has evolved over time.
Yeah. The Pootie Tang guy. I'm aware.
Pootie Tang guy. Yeah.
It's devolved over time. Yes.
It's revolved, unvolved, quasi-volved.
There you go.
There's been some involvement.
Evolving has occurred.
We're evolving all over this sucker. At any rate, when we have a guest, we do like them. We invite them. They are always free to say no, and many guests in the past have done so. But we do invite them to recount the plot in 60 seconds. And so, since he is up for it, I have 60 seconds on the clock. Joseph, I will give you the 30 and 10-second warnings, as I always do. Okay. And your time will start when you begin your synopsis.
What if The Breakfast Club was a frenetic, profane cartoon in which the sun is always setting in a perpetual Michael Bay kind of magic hour? You notice that with the lighting, right? We follow an ensemble of high schoolers in the final days of their senior year, but we focus mostly on loser Riley and cool guy Clapton, who are neighbors and old friends and in love, I guess. We watch as they navigate the perils of teenage angst until they must navigate the literal perils of an axe-wielding slasher straight out of the newest horror film to hit the cinemas. And that's just the movie warming up From there is monstrous mutations, body swapping, and time travel. Ultimately, our heroes must foil the plot of a scorned madman and fellow student in order to save the world just in time to be named king and queen of the prom.
Holy shit, 12 seconds to spare. Don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, dude, that's good.
Right.
That's good.
Look, thank you.
If listeners want to like appreciate the evolution of Mr. Leck's recounting of the plot in 30 seconds,
my first episode,
go back to our Space Truckers episode,
Yeah,
episode
Space Truckers
17, I think, and listen to that. It takes you 30 seconds to get through the first 5 minutes.
It's the author in me. I'm like, all right, we open on
establishing shot of a planet in motion.
I think that was also before I started like taking notes about it, because clearly I was reading there. I do notes now to keep myself on track.
And you know what? A lot of our guests do that. We absolutely encourage it. We don't do that because we don't care that much. Okay. But we always encourage our guests, if that help, anything that helps, do it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've had guests who have stressed out about this so much that they've like timed themselves and like written it out
a couple of times actually.
Okay, so you're
just
one of them.
All fit, yeah.
And so, but yeah, it does happen. Look, we've never cut a guest off. We've cut ourselves off, but we've never like cut a guest off and been like, all right, you're done. Like we'll let them finish the synopsis. But yeah,
that's probably good.
Yeah, we don't want to alienate our guests. We like them. We want them to come back.
Everybody has to finish the plot. It's just the podcast isn't as free if we don't do it in 60 seconds. The plot must be finished either way. 60 seconds is not a cutoff. Yeah. It's just, the podcast isn't as free anymore. That's it.
Tucker,
no big
Tucker, you've having seen this movie 1,000 times, did you know, and I knew this guy's face, the morning show anchor is a famous poker player. Do you know who this guy is?
I recognized his face too, but I didn't know what from, and I don't know anything about pokers.
I used to have this weird, me either, which is going to make the story I'm about to tell very strange. I had this weird obsession for a while where I'd get home from work late at night and Poker After Dark would be playing. And I don't know how to play poker. I don't know much about it, but I would watch this show in fascination. And I would just be enthralled by a bunch of guys sitting around a table playing poker. But this guy who plays the morning show anchor, I'm 99.9% sure he's a famous poker player, but I didn't know if you had recognized him and knew who he was or not.
No,
I guess I could have just looked it up. Huh?
Look at this. He is from the TV series World Series of Poker.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
The actor's name is Daniel Negreanu, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But he's appeared in other films. He plays a character called Poker Player in the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then another
also in the music video Waking Up in Vegas by Katy Perry, also playing the same character. Poker Player.
Interesting. Shared universe. He plays a character called Poker Pro in a movie called The Grand.
And in Joseph Kahn's third
typecast.
film, he plays a character named let me check my notes here. Poker Player.
Yeah. So clearly the man has a type of role that he is drawn to.
I think he's a gymnast.
That's gotta be
it. Yeah.
I mean, look, the man's got range, is what we're saying.
yeah. He's all over the place.
I mean, what a range! God, you gotta love it.
Do you think that all of these movies bodied the Katy Perry video, X-Men Origins, and The Grand are all part of the Poker Player cinematic universe, and we just don't know it?
Oh, you know what? I think we should probably watch all of those movies and figure it out.
I think if that's a good idea.
Maybe that should be our new Patreon series. Is us watching every movie featuring this actor playing a character called Poker Player or Poker Pro, and just piecing together.
So how it all fits together. Would just be like, so did you see him? And we'd be like, yeah, he was in that one scene. Do you remember? And
yeah, I remember.
Like, yeah, that was pretty cool. All okay, right, cool. Well, bye.
Bye.
Maybe that time that guy played poker in this movie, but then he did the same thing in the last movie. That was cool. Okay, bye.
Remember how he plays poker in real life? That's pretty cool too. I've thought about doing a podcast very similar to that about the movies in which Smash Mouth's All Star appears. Just like doing every movie that has All Star in it.
You'd unfortunately have to throw Mystery Men on there, unfortunately.
Mystery Men would be in there. Shrek would be in there. Like
that would be a way to live a life. I'm not sure that I would recommend it, but it would be a choice.
It's a choice. Is it a choice I want to make?
Could do.
I don't know, but it is something I could do. I feel like people would listen to that podcast.
Take your word on that.
There would be at least a person who would listen to it, I'm sure.
Dozens. There would be dozens of people who would want to listen to that podcast.
Tens of people.
Maybe 5.
Okay, 5
would be
of people.
Couples of people. There would be couples of people, Steven.
Look, if you would listen to that podcast, shoot me an email, disenfranchisepod@gmail.com, and put in the subject line, Smash Mouth All-Star, please. And then I'll know.
Hold on. Let me check the email. Crickets. Okay, cool.
Okay, well, this episode doesn't release till Thursday. You bitch.
Yeah, but I checked it in the future because I got that time traveling bear, dude.
No.
Oh, and he brought a full circle. Well done.
Yeah,
Did you see that sweet boy? Did you see that sweet boy bear in the little when they showed the time traveling bear getting on the spaceship? That was the cutest bear, man. That's probably how I'm gonna die. Is I just won't be able to resist hugging a bear. Like I know I shouldn't, but like they just look so soft.
They do. When they're not growling at you, they look very cuddly.
Yeah, man. I want to lay with one, not in the biblical sense, but like just like lay on one. You know, like lay on top of a bear.
Oh my god!
And just get really comfortable and go to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
No, we don't.
No, I don't.
We just don't.
Like take the concept of a bear rug, right? But then like put the actual bear in the rug. And that's what you've got.
So you want to like hug a stuffed bear?
Not only is it soft and fuzzy, but it's warm and it's moving up and down as it breathes.
Let the record reflect that Justin is rocking back and forth in a bizarre catatonic state. Very uncomfortable.
Who?
I'm sorry.
Who did you speak of?
I apologize for my swearing. You can bleep out my swearing in post-production, right?
Why would you speak my slave name?
Doesn't
Joseph.
typically speak profanities, but in the case of this podcast, perhaps you could.
We do bring out the worst in you. What can we say?
I dropped the J word.
This is probably, in fairness, this podcast is probably the dumbest thing you do consistently. So
also, look, not only that, but we're 45 minutes into this, and we did 30 minutes in the other show, and this is your first time. So I'd say you're doing pretty well, old friend.
Okay, I will do my best to make it the last time. We'll see. I was really wanting to nail this episode of not doing it.
You made it through your entire director's commentary. Well, here's the thing: you think you did, but maybe you didn't. We're gonna have to listen to that director's commentary and find out.
I did because I wrote out extensive notes for my director's commentary. I was very rigid about my director's commentary. So, Justin, Tucker, are you gonna go back and delete those? Are you gonna bleep them? How are you gonna handle it? You gonna leave them in?
No, that means more work for him later. That means more work for him later, though, so he can't do that.
Okay.
No, I can't do what you're trying to say, Steven. You saying that sometimes I leave in stuff that's not funny, and I say it's funny just because I don't want to take it out and do the work? Is that what you're trying to say, Steven?
I mean, you said that.
I would straight up never do that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, honestly,
it's not like there are many times where you can hear me on an episode say, Tucker, take all that out, and then it stays in the episode.
I've heard some of those episodes, yeah.
That's never happened.
No, honestly, a lot of the time it's not that I don't want to cut it out, because I will, most of the time when that happens, I will do a version where I cut it out, and then I'll listen to that part and see if it plays better with it out or with it in. And 99% of the time, because the way our conversations flow and kind of how our conversation is very casual, it goes a lot better with it in. Most of the time, I do cut shit out. You just don't know it because you don't remember it ever being there.
I also don't go back and listen to the episodes most times.
And also there's that.
Yeah.
Brett, what do you think about all this?
Again, with those hand signals, what is that?
Is that ASL? I think he's learning American Sign Language, guys.
I only know milk is this.
Right.
Like you're squeezing a teat.
A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just,
that's fine. It's fine. Moving on.
No, well said. No, this movie's fucking insane. Like, what do we, Tucker, guide us? What do we even say about this?
let's talk about the cast, you guys.
Could you close up the valve on your helium tank before we continue, please?
Absolutely not.
Came in there real high.
Yeah, dude.
So when
I got a lot of range, man.
When this movie was in production, the only quote unquote star this movie had was Dane Cook. And then Josh Hutcherson was in a movie called The Kids Are All Right, which came out in 2010. He had just finished that movie when he was making Detention. So that movie comes out and becomes kind of a big deal. And then the year after Detention, he does a little movie called, let me just check my notes here, The Hunger Games.
In which the kids are not all right.
No, those kids are not all right at all. Kids Are All Right, by the way, Oscar-nominated film. Actually, very good film. I haven't seen it in a few years, but I remember it being really good. Nice. Julianne Moore, Annette Bening, and Mark Ruffalo. Like, good movie. Nice. He's one of the kids.
Can't go wrong with that.
He's one of the kids, and you know what? He's all right.
Speaking of him as a kid, I didn't realize this until the last time that I watched it a couple months ago, but he's in American Splendor.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the kid dressed as Robin at the door in that one scene where the trick-or-treaters are at the door.
Correct. He's in the English version of Howl's Moving Castle. One of his first big movies was probably the Polar Express, the Robert Zemeckis animated film, The Polar Express.
Yep.
Will Ferrell's Kicking and Screaming, and a future episode of this podcast is Athora in 2005. The Robin Williams Barry Sonnenfeld joint RV in 2006, Bridge to Terabithia in 2007. The Oft Forgotten Journey to the Center of the Earth in 2008. Future episode of this podcast, Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant in 2009. And then Kids Are All Right and Detention. So that's kind of his build up to this. A lot of big movies in which he plays a very minor role.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is kind of his last stop before fame, really, with the Hunger Games movies. Although he is an executive producer on this film, so
I thought I saw his name credited as a producer. Yeah,
yeah. So he's got enough clout to like fill that role on this movie, or maybe it was just because his star was rising by the time this movie did finally get a release. That they're like, we could just make you EP and probably like get some hits off of that. So they did, and it didn't really work, but there you go. That's a thing that they tried, apparently.
I like me some Josh Hutcherson. I can't say that I like everything that he's in, but I always like him in anything I see him in. I really liked him in Future Man.
I've heard that is a good show. Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's borderline. It's kind of like Bupkis, where like, if you're not like down for kind of some fucked up shit,
okay,
like you watch about 2 episodes and you're like, yes or no. You go either way, and I said yes, and I had a good time with it. It was a really fun show.
It's a Seth Rogen show, right?
Yes.
So,
I think he was a producer on it, I believe.
Okay,
or writer also. I don't remember him being in it though. If I'm being
he probably
honest.
wasn't in it, but he was probably one of the creators. Him and Evan Goldberg, his directing and producing partner, probably had something to do with that.
Yup.
He's actually not one of the creators. So I don't know what role he played on that show, but I remember him being a part of it, I think. But
speaking of the cast, the kid that plays Billy, what's his name?
Oh, the David
Billy
Cronenberg
Nolan.
guy? The guy who
Parker
is every
Bagley.
David Cronenberg film?
Basically. He is dead.
What?
He had some trouble with the law a couple years after this film came out, and then he died a few years back, and there's no one will say how he died.
Ooh, God. He was in previous episode of this podcast, A Nightmare on Elm Street, as well.
Yes, he was.
In fact, those are
I think
two
he's in that
of
first scene.
The two of the three movies that he did, we've covered on this podcast. I do not know that we would be able to cover the third because it does not look like a kind of movie that we would cover. Does not fit our format, but yeah, like he did 3 movies and he died in 2020. So
oh, that sucks. Jeez.
that's a big old bummer, man. Just way to bring us all down, man. Yeah.
He got in trouble for petty larceny, I guess.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, and I don't know if something happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually when you're fucking with money and you get in trouble with the law, you know, I'm just saying maybe something happened to him, or maybe something. I don't know. It says undisclosed on how he died. So
okay, let's not speculate needlessly.
I was gonna say, let's probably leave it at that.
Speculate. All right.
Let's,
so what I
think right along.
Here's how it went down in my mind.
Here's how I will tell you. There's a kid in the opening scene when our main character Clapton is skateboarding through the hallways of his school. There's a character he's credited just as Nerd. He's the chubby kid with the curly hair and the glasses taking a drink out of the water fountain. Maybe one of my least favorite background actors ever, because he stands out like a sore thumb in every scene I've ever seen him in.
Well, then you noticed that he was in this movie more than just the beginning.
I know.
He's in it about 4 or 5 times.
No, I know.
Like he's interacted with, but it happens so fast.
Exactly. Like everything else in this movie.
Like you don't catch it. Like
no,
I'm still seeing interactions with this kid in this movie. I noticed one when I watched it earlier today. I was
he's
like,
not a background actor in this film. I should clarify. Yeah. He's not a background actor in this film. He's a credited actor in this film. But I have seen him in things from like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie to Arrested Development. Like whenever he shows up in the background of a thing, I'm like, oh God, this guy, because background actors are supposed to like just be background. Like you're not supposed to notice them, but this guy always stands out because he's got very large hair and a very distinctive look. And I always notice him every time he's on screen. And I'm like,
he's very pasty. He's very pasty.
Is. And so I'm just like, that guy. Like he was in a GoDaddy commercial where he like had to make out with a supermodel or something. He was in like one of the Lost like interactive things. Like he did an appearance at Comic-Con as someone who was like telling the truth about the Dharma Initiative or something. Like he'll just show up and shit. And I'm like, this guy, he just drives me nuts. And for all I know, he's probably a fan of this podcast. And if you are listening, thank you for listening. Let us know. And I will stop disliking you every time I see you in a movie.
Come on the podcast and tell Steven he's an asshole to his face.
Please.
If you'd
I
like.
have it coming.
No, come on the podcast and be a background person.
Yes,
never say anything where no one notices you.
Just like clear your throat every once in a while.
We don't even mention that you're here.
Yeah.
Just
put your coffee cup down,
Yeah, be a background person like you are in every movie you've ever been in, and just be very obvious despite the fact that you're supposed to blend in. Yeah, absolutely. Please come on this podcast and do that. No, look, I would love to have anyone associated with this movie on this podcast. Speaking of weird people associated that are in this movie, Percy Daggs from Veronica Mars, like one of the leads of Veronica Mars, is in this movie as Jock Kid.
I knew that kid's face.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the guy from Veronica Mars. That's what it was.
Absolutely. And you're like, oh, he's going to come back later. Nope. He sure doesn't.
Wait, is that the kid that gets the acid barfed on his helmet in the football game?
No, it's like in the beginning of the movie, like when they're in the hallway, like the intro scene. He just like runs by the camera. It's like 3 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all we see of him, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think it is.
Back.
Well, I mean, he might come back because all the extras in the hallway scene at the beginning of the movie pretty much all come back for the 1990s hallway sequence. Like they're pretty much all there. Like pretty much everyone who's in the first sequence is in the second one, just in a different costume, which is, I think, part of the joke is that no one ever leaves this town. Like this is kind of one of those like dead end small towns that you just kind of get stuck in, right? I think that's kind of the joke, because later on they make the joke like the world's going to end, and like the world or just this town. Like, you ever been outside the town? They're like, no. He's like, well, what's the difference then? And I think that's kind of the commentary they're making, is that all these people are pretty much just stay here.
Gotcha.
In Grizzly Lake, wherever the fuck Grizzly Lake is. Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite jokes in the movie is during the 90s hallway scene when Riley finally goes back and she sees her dad and she smacks the liquor away from him and she says, this is why mom left you. And just like leaves him with that information and walks away.
And it looks like he has a genuine epiphany in that moment. Whoever the actor is playing the younger version of her father looks like he has a genuine epiphany there.
And that's something I want to say about this cast is a lot of this cast doesn't really have a lot of time or enough material to really shine, but everybody in this cast, even the littlest things like that guy, and even the actor that plays her dad in the present day, like he has like 3 lines, but he still nails it. Everybody in this movie is, like I said before, everybody, including the cast that's making this movie, has to be firing on all cylinders for this to work at all. So I just like to give a big round of applause to literally everyone on the cast except for Ron Jeremy, because fuck that guy. Because wow, you guys did it. Like even people that had like 1 line just killed it. You know
who's in this movie, like who had a really great year last year, but it was like in this movie before he like hit? Richard Brake.
Who that?
The guy who he was the villain in Barbarian, that movie that came out last year that everyone really liked.
Oh, well, he's a Rob Zombie guy. That guy's been in shit for years. It's just been Rob Zombie shit.
I was gonna say, but he's like barely in this. It's like a blink and you miss it kind of thing. He's
as perfect,
the dad of
like
the David Cronenberg kid.
They're going for with that.
Exactly. Well, and again, that's they're and again they use genre as a playground. And
it's like the after party, but scenes instead of episodes, dude.
The guy is Videodrome. He is The Fly. He is Scanners. Like he is every David Cronenberg movie mashed into one character. And it's a really funny meta joke. But then you get like the Scream killer who's basically going through the movie, killing off all the stereotypically 80s. Like the first scene, he kills off the Ferris Bueller girl. And then he kills off the David Cronenberg guy. Like he's just killing off the 80s tropes because he prefers the 90s ones. Like that's kind of his whole shtick. Which again, there's a movie saying like some really interesting meta-textual things about, in the same way that Scream does, about nostalgia and the way that we consume media, particularly the things that we're nostalgic for. And it doesn't boil down to just nostalgia bad, but it just maybe removing the post irony. Read a book. It's called post irony. Like
I liked that joke.
I loved that joke. That may be my favorite. That was probably my favorite line of the movie. Read a book. It's called post irony. Like I just fucking loved that. Like, but that's kind of what the movie is saying. Like, or it's not the end of the world. It's just high school. Like the things that matter so much to us as teenagers, because there's so little of our lives behind us at that point, that even these tiny things seem like these insurmountable obstacles. Like a bad grade is the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's just high school. Like these themes that are kind of baked into the cake of this movie that I feel like they're pretty evident and pretty obvious, but it's easy to miss the forest for the trees because there is so much happening in this movie. There's so many things that can attract your attention. I think it would reward multiple watches in order to catch a lot of the little things that you might miss otherwise. But the big themes, I think, are very obvious and very evident and very right in your face. And I think they have to deal a lot with these themes of nostalgia and with being a teenager. Like when I watched an interview with Joseph Kahn about this movie, and he's like, this is a movie specifically for teenagers today, living in 2011, 2012. Like this is who I made this movie for. Teenagers who are living right now, whose nostalgia is not for 80s stuff, but for 90s stuff, who grew up in the 90s or grew up with that kind of nostalgic touch point. Those are the references that they're going to recognize, remember, and know. And then we can build off of that, which I think is, and I think this movie does that very well. And it's very interesting to see this movie kind of play with those ideas and play in that sandbox.
Absolutely. Well said. And before I forget, Tucker, to your point, you were talking. You keep coming back to everybody firing on all cylinders. I want to shout out the coach, who might be my favorite character in this movie.
My God, that guy's hilarious.
So funny. Oh, he's the best. Every scene he had, and they were few and far between. It was like laugh out loud. He was so funny.
The actor's name is James Black. He plays Mr. Cooper. Which is itself a 90s reference.
Of course.
But
hanging with.
He is in previous episode of this podcast, Godzilla, playing a role called Soldier. And speaking of Soldier, he will be in future episode of this podcast, Soldier, playing a character called Riley. So yeah.
Oh, I thought we were gonna get the Soldier cinematic universe with the Coach guy.
I mean, we might look for all we know.
Maybe they'll cross over. They cross over in this movie. No, but he's not poker player in this movie.
He's not poker player in this movie. Yeah.
No reporter has ever held a mic like this. I'm not sure why. It was like reporter, like he's a battle rapper or something.
Right? Yeah, you're holding it with your fist in front of your face, like you're a battle, like you're Eminem in 8 Mile,
or straight up metal, like "What the fuck's up, Denny's?" You know. Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck is up, Denny's? Let's be real.
Before we move on from the cast, I would like to say I think everybody is fantastic in this movie, especially the leads. But I think the person who is the MVP for me, MVP? And I'm surprised that she is not blown the fuck up. I mean, she works. Is Spencer Locke. She really just goes right in this movie and just like doesn't stop. She's all energy.
She's
and
good.
She plays a character that could just be like, for all intents and purposes, a dumb bimbo, but she gives it a lot of energy and a lot of heart. Like she does a lot with what is there, which is kind of a lot and not a lot at the same time, because I mean, technically she plays 2 characters at different points in the film. And her birthing herself is a whole other thing.
Right. That's fucking weird as hell.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, when Steven leaves, I don't know how to talk, so I'll just have to cut this out.
I mean, you and I can just talk. You, me, and Brett, we can just keep it going.
Yeah, Brett's is having a good time. I just don't think he really has much to say this evening.
I think it's technical issues.
Is it that? Wait, I see that his cat has literally got his tongue right now. It's holding on to it, and it doesn't look like he's letting go. Let's see how this plays out.
Okay, let's watch.
And
everyone at home can listen in as we watch 2 cats bite Brett's tongue
over and over.
It's much more interesting than it actually sounds like.
Yeah, it's really great. Everybody loves it. It takes Steven a long time to pee, by the way.
Does it?
Like 20 minutes. Like,
okay. So he goes on a potty break and you always cut that out? Are you going to leave this one in to shame
I don't know.
for having to pee?
You know, I think that there is going to be a little bit of dead air here. There was at the beginning of the break, so I'll definitely cut that out. But again, I will see how it plays. I mean, I do my due diligence. I know it seems like I'm being lazy because most of the time I just leave stuff in, but most of the time it flows better if I do. Like honestly, it works better for kind of what the tone and the flow of the conversation.
I can't imagine how you would actually edit half the stuff with it all just kind of gushing the way it does. There's no good clean marks to cut up your stuff, so I see why you leave it all in. I probably would too.
That's why I'm very proud of the fact that no one has ever told me that they've noticed an edit, because I usually don't tell anyone when I edit stuff out unless Steven or Brett asks. I won't tell them if I've edited something out or left something in. I think my favorite editing challenge is the What Are We Watching podcast, because I like finding the sweet spot of those cold opens. So that I don't know have you listened to any of those?
A couple of them. I'm way behind in everything pretty much.
Okay. I've gotten a lot better at them too. We had a 16-minute cold open the last episode. And I really found a nice little spot. Cut it. Put that theme song in. I think we need a separate theme song for What Are We Watching. I might have to throw Jimmy another $75 because now that I have so much responsibility, I don't know that I could really put all my heart and soul into doing another theme for this show.
I was about to say, I thought you handled all the music for this show. You've been having Evan do it for them now?
Well, I had Jimmy write the theme song to my show that I don't know what we're going to do with it. We're either going to have it as a Patreon show, or we were discussing having it just converting these Fifth Thursday Tucker-centric episodes into just the show I was going to do for Patreon.
And really how the Tucker-centric episodes came about is because Tucker would hound us incessantly. Like, when are we going to talk about this movie that I really want to talk about? And we're like, dude, we'll get to it. So we literally had to put on the schedule a time for Tucker to talk about the shit he wanted to talk about. So,
okay.
And Joe, you're coming next time because the next movie that we're covering, I believe it's November. I'm sorry that these guest appearances have to be so close, but I'm going to need you here in November as well, because the movie I discovered a couple weeks ago is another one like this one, where I have life before that movie and life after. And it's going to be one of my mains. As I was watching the film, I ordered the 4K Blu-ray as I was watching it.
It's quite a build up. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the return of Captain Invincible,
which is somehow not a sequel.
It's not, and
it's good.
Well, let me tell you, it's got Christopher Lee in it, so.
And also Academy Award nominee or Academy Award winner Alan Arkin as well.
So. PV himself is in it as well.
What period was this film made in? I've never heard of it.
The early 80s. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised you haven't heard of it, because once again, I was watching a YouTube video and somebody just dropped some fucking knowledge on me, and I was like, holy shit, how have I not, like, this is a movie that I should have grown up with, and I'm mad that I didn't. I'm furious that I did not grow up with this movie.
Interestingly, we all thought that would be how you would feel about Howard the Duck.
No, I fucking hated that movie. That movie sucked. I did not like that movie. Well, I mean, I like Leah Thompson, but you know.
I have not seen that movie in 20 years. I don't even know what my opinion of it is.
I own it on 4K now.
So Steven, you like it, and Tucker, you hate it.
I don't know. I don't know that I like it, but it's kind of one of those things. Like, I feel like this is such a weird cultural artifact that I need to revisit it like regularly, like maybe once a decade.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, you have fun with that.
I will. I probably will.
Have a good time.
Look, I was the guy that loved Robert Altman's Popeye, and have grown to love it progressively more. Popeye. I do. That movie fucking rips, dude.
I don't know what my opinion is on it, because I don't think I've seen it since I was a child.
You should absolutely check it out again. I would love. We should do. Honestly, we should do a Patreon show where you watch an episode or a movie that we've covered previously and give your thoughts about it that you haven't seen yet. That would be a fun. That'd be a fun podcast. We could. That means we could finally get you to watch Food Fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. Having heard what you guys have to say about Food Fight,
the worst movie we've ever covered on this podcast, and we have covered some duds on this podcast.
This is true.
But I would easily. That was the only movie I ever awarded 0 stars. Everything else I've given at least a half star. I gave that one 0 stars. I could not, in good conscience, rank that one.
I've given a lot of stuff 0 stars in the last couple months, because Steven just keeps throwing shit at us for some reason. I don't know why.
So you need me back in November for the return of Captain Invincible. I am making
Yes, I believe that it is November. That's the next 5th Thursday, right?
Let me check the schedule here real quick.
And that's on Tubi. Which Detention's also on Tubi. But you guys, could you imagine this movie with commercials?
Nope.
No, thank you. No fucking thank you. Yeah, that's why I was telling my friend Marvin, who's doing camp host tonight. I went down there. I was talking to him, and I was telling him, I was like, "Yo, yeah, it's on Tubi." But then, like, immediately after I said that, I was like, "But I might just borrow you the Blu-ray because, like, I just don't know. Commercials wouldn't. Nah." No.
So chances are that one it will drop on the 30th of November. So we will probably cover that one. We'll probably record that one on Thursday the 20 or Sunday the 26th. Although we might be able to do that one on a Saturday because Tucker will be off season at that point.
Okay,
that's true. My schedule will be wide open. Do. And by then I will have watched the director's cut. I've only seen the theatrical version because that's what's on Tubi. So I will have watched the director's cut. I will have listened to the commentary on both the theatrical and the director's cut. And I will have probably put the soundtrack CD in my car because, spoilers, it's a musical.
Oh.
Yeah, Christopher Lee sings, and I know that you're into that already.
I would very much like to hear some more of that.
Yes.
I know he was in that metal band for a couple of years before his death.
Yeah, dude. Throwing it down.
I will say, at one point, I did think Detention was going to be a musical. I thought they were going to go that direction with it, and I was kind of excited, but then they didn't do it. They were cowards and they backed out.
Yeah, but that's okay because
easily could have been, I think.
The Umbop brought it all together, man. Because you'd been hearing it the whole movie. That's why
I noticed
the first time
that.
I watched this movie, you'd been hearing it the whole movie, and you're like, I don't know what that is, but I like it. It sounds familiar.
No, I knew exactly what it was.
Into it. And then all of a sudden, bam, it kicks in right at the end, and you're like, yes, thank you.
Okay. It is story time with Steven.
Yes, please.
When I was in high school, which is to say, I was in high school in the late 90s when Mbop was a single on the popular music charts.
Girl, me too.
Like many people in the 90s at the time, I had a post-ironic detachment from that song. I thought it was dumb. Hella dumb. I know, look, I'm coming back. Some friends of mine and I, we got it in our heads that it would be really funny to drive around one of the suburbs of Indianapolis called Noblesville. You guys know Noblesville.
I know Nobles, Tucky, sure.
Yeah, we would drive around downtown Noblesville where one of my friends lived with our windows rolled completely down. No matter what the weather was like outside, we'd roll our windows completely down, turn the stereo all the way up and play Mbop as loud as we possibly could while driving as slow as legally possible through downtown Noblesville.
That sounds wonderful.
And we did this in kind of a post-ironic way until we became so connected to the song that we no longer loved it ironically.
Yeah.
We just loved it.
Hell yeah.
So since then I have been an Mbop fan. So when they started playing it, when it would creep into the score, my mind was going, that's Mbop. Like, I know what that, like, why is the score doing Mbop right now? And then when it comes in at the dance at the end, I'm like, oh, that's why I've been hearing this song this whole fucking movie, because they're prepping me for this moment, and it all made sense.
So did you enjoy the Brian and Melissa remake? Did you enjoy what they did with it? I really liked what they did with it. I thought it was great.
I thought it was all right. Yeah. I mean, there's just something about the original.
The music in general is good.
This soundtrack slaps. Like,
the score,
it goes from like
the needle drops are great,
deep cut indie shit to like pop 90s. Like,
right?
it
like
runs the whole gamut.
The theme of your movie is Mbop, but the starting song on the end credits is Wolf Like Me by TV on the radio. Did you guys understand any of those words I just said put together? Exactly.
I understand them all individually. Yeah.
Exactly. TV on the radio, they're kind of obscure, especially these days.
Mm-hmm.
But they're great, and that song is great. I'm not kidding you guys. Almost every time that I watch this movie, when the movie ends and the credits start, I just turn the movie off and I'll just put that song on like some headphones really loud, or I'll like on my big speakers really loud. That song slaps so hard. So hard.
And in an Mbop, it's gone.
Yeah,
in an Mbop, it's not there.
Also, the cover of You're No Good that comes after it in the credits is really good too. And a little bit of score is great too. I keep feeling like I have to defend my love for credits to people more these days because of the popularity of after credit scenes.
I was a fan of sitting through credits before after credit scenes became a norm.
Me too. And there are several reasons I like to do that. Not only is it out of respect for everybody that works so hard on the film.
That's the big one for me. That's the big one for me.
I also like to try to pronounce names that are very hard to pronounce. I try to find jobs I've never heard of before. Like, I'm like, what, a donut wrangler? What's that? And I also like to.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, Tucker, what that is.
Yeah, I like at the end it shows you all the songs and who performed them.
Yes, and that's usually at the tail end of the credits. Yeah,
that's initially, even as a child, that was what got me into watching the credits, because I don't turn the movies off, man. I can't remember a time where I didn't watch the credits to a movie and get offended if somebody asked me to leave during the credits. But the other thing is I like credits music because there's a formula to it. There's a very simple formula, and
explain it to us for those of us not in the know.
Okay, so to end your movie, you've got your banger. You've got your big song. That's the one that's gonna, let people know it's time to stand up and get your ass out of here. So it's gonna be a banger. And then after that, you got something that's still like a pop song or, a genre song, just doing its thing, maybe a little more low key. And then to finish it out, you have a portion of the score.
I was going to say usually an orchestral piece from the score. Yeah.
And I'm not going to say every movie is like that, but a good 75% of all films that come out, I feel like there is a formula to that.
Depending on how long those songs are, sometimes it's 2 songs and you're done with the credits.
Well, and sometimes they will cut a song off early, just like Wolf Like Me by TV on the Radio, the aforementioned first song that plays during the credits in this movie. They cut that off at the breakdown because there's a whole other half to that song. That song slows down for about 30 seconds and it gets back into it and goes just a little harder. And it's really rad. Like, I wish the whole song was on there, but I'm used to credits doing that. Like, they'll put 2 songs in there, but they'll be half a songs. Because unless it's like an MCU movie or some big blockbuster movie that has literally thousands of CGI artists to list,
right? Yeah,
the credits aren't more than like 5-6 minutes. So you get 2 half songs and a piece of the score, and you're out the door.
Works. A friend of mine in college, future guest of the podcast, Dr. Matt McMahon, he taught me a game called the Ski Game, where you look through the credit as a way of keeping yourself engaged during the credits. If you're one prone to boredom, you count how many names you can find in the credits that end in ski, SKI.
Nice.
And that becomes the game. And if you can find more than the other people that you're with, then you win.
My favorite game used to be to pronounce Japanese names in a thick Japanese accent, and then I realized that was racist, so I stopped doing that.
That maybe, maybe not, but yeah.
What? I had a redemption arc. I'm going to be honest about my past. I'm not going to, hide things. I've been ignorant in the past. Joe's known me long enough to know that there are lots of things that I used to say that I would probably never fucking say right now.
I appreciate that you're growing.
Not even in fucking private, dude.
Things that I will take to my grave out of respect and love for my friend Tucker.
Probably for the best, honestly. Probably for the best. Look, we could all tell stories about each other, I'm sure.
We were literal children together, so yes, we got some dirt. Some diggity dirt.
See, I didn't meet Joseph till I was a grown ass man, so I have no excuse. But yeah. Oh gosh, what else to say about Detention? God, what else can you say about a movie like this?
Go watch it. And if you have the fortitude and you have the attention span, or maybe lack of, watch it at least 4 times in a row. You got that kind of time on your hands. I'm not joking. I recommend at least watching it 3 times in a row.
It's dense as fuck. It's so dense, you guys. Like it's so deep. It's so murky. It's so muddy. Like it's a trip. It's a trip and a half. I will watch it at some point in the future. I don't know when. But it is one that I will watch in the future.
You should celebrate your purchasing of the Blu-ray when it comes in the mail and you can watch it again.
Okay. I think I might wait for the 4K on this one because I think it would be really good in 4K.
Look, there is a following building up around this film, but it's very, very slow.
Look, so it's going to get, this episode's going to drop on Thursday. It's going to get that disenfranchised bump because the show is so wildly popular in all corners of the internet.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we know our reach, okay? And they'll realize that there's a demand for this kind of thing, and they'll roll it out. So there you go.
Yeah, there'll be about between 70 and 80 people that will be like, I should go see Detention. But then again, out of those 70 to 80 people, they'll tell one friend, and then that friend will tell a friend, and that friend will tell a friend, and Detention will get a 4K release in maybe 20 years when 4K is irrelevant, and we just have
it's in a dead format.
TVs.
Yeah,
we just have TVs implanted in our brains. And we can just
hook up. We jack into TVs like the Matrix. Yeah,
yeah, dude. Speaking of jacking in, did you notice?
Better in than off, I say.
Billy, as a kid, when he had the hand in the TV, did you notice there was a red plug that was going into his inbow, which is what I call the opposite of an elbow. It's your inbow right here. Yeah. It was going right into there, which a couple things confused me there. Because red in the electricity world essentially means it's your positive. You know, that's your current. And black is, of course, the ground. But when you're talking about cables that come in and out of a TV, red is usually an audio cable. Mm-hmm. No matter what, if you're doing S-video, if you're doing composite, component, it doesn't fucking matter. Red is always an audio cable. So I only noticed that this time, you guys, that there was a cable connected in his arm. So I'm wondering what that's all about.
I don't know. It may just be a cool design choice, honestly.
It's probably just some fun stuff going on. Not a lot of thought put into it. I mean, as silly as that segment is, like, maybe it's not best to look into the intricacies of something that is forcing me to suspend my disbelief so much that a child would walk around with a CRT television on his hand while it's playing something on it. You'd like at school, they'd make him turn it off. It's got a power button. What I'm saying is, like, in this segment, you just kind of have to, like, cover your brain's eyes, but not your actual eyes, because you have to see it, but just cover your brain's eyes so that it doesn't think about it too much.
And that whole segment, again, it's a parody of Cronenberg. So, like, that portion is Videodrome, which is it one of David Cronenberg's best movies? Hell yes, it is. Absolutely. It is. Without question. It's like maybe his number 2 behind History of Violence.
Like History of Violence. Yeah. Thank you. High five. Pow.
History of Violence first and Videodrome very close second, like right there. Yes. Those movies fucking rule, both of them. But also like number 3 with a bullet, The Fly, which is also parodied in this movie hilariously. Like there's so much in this movie that's just really fun, but again, it's the way that it plays with, again, particularly the 80s genre stuff. The fact that the villain, the Cinderella villain and reveal is clearly a Scream reference that they legitimately call out multiple times in the movie. Like, again, the idea that they're playing on these forms of nostalgia, killing off the 80s to make way. And in fact, one of Taylor Fisher's rules for not being a total reject is the 90s are the new 80s. And so it makes sense that then our villain is legitimately killing off the 80s, essentially. Ferris Bueller, Breakfast Club, David Cronenberg. Like it's killing off those 80s tropes one by one as the movie goes on. And it's kind of interesting for that. Like I like that. That's one of the things I really enjoy about this movie. And I want to give it another watch just to see if I can pick up on some more of that.
And I think that's something that is really interesting about this film is that it is ahead of its time because it sort of predicted that. Because I don't think in 2010, 2011 that the 90s were really coming back strong. It was kind of in a transition. We were going from 80s to 90s, like you do.
They were coming. It was on its way. Yeah.
This movie, I think, would do so much better now because now it is the 90s. That's what it is. It's the 90s. We're doing the 90s now. We did the 80s for most of the 2000s. Now we're doing the 90s. When I was a kid, everybody was into the straight up 60s and 70s.
Correct.
You know, that's just how things go. But
lava lamps and bell bottoms were popular when we were kids.
Detention is right. It's just right about 5 years too early. And which is why it's pretty cool that it's a time travel movie, because, you know, all we got to do is get in that bear and bring that movie forward.
Right.
We'd be all right.
And I mean, yeah, are we riffing on Back to the Future? Absolutely we are. But again, the main, and again, according to the director himself, like the main point of comparison is not so much the 80s film so much as it is the 90s films. Like the 90s films in particular are very much what this movie is drawing from and referencing, like to the fact that the fight scene at the end is Roadhouse versus Steven Seagal.
I love the editing during the fight reminded me a lot of the fight editing in Pootie Tang, actually.
Yeah, I can see that.
Those quick, like, fast motion cuts where, like, you go regular speed and then speed up the film and then cut, speed up the film and cut, speed up the film and cut. Mm-hmm. They did that a lot with the belt in Pootie Tang because obviously you had to, because it's a fucking belt. Like,
right.
Unless you're doing something with the film, it's not going to look intimidating at all.
No.
Which is why I love the part in Pootie Tang where it is just at regular speed and he's just like, where Dirty D's trying to hit him with it, but it's just a belt. Like,
Once again, I cannot believe you hired the Pootie Tang guy.
Look, man, what other choice did we have? In fairness, we didn't look that far.
Well.
So as we mentioned before, this film debuts at South by Southwest in March of 2011. It then gets its very limited theatrical release in April 13th of 2012 before being released on DVD and Blu-ray on July 31st. So really does not even have a very long theatrical run, kind of just comes into the theaters and dies. Interestingly enough, this movie, it does have its theatrical release on April 13th, 2012. The number one movie in America, holding its number one spot in its fourth weekend, is another Josh Hutcherson film called The Hunger Games,
where he plays. Can you imagine if you're British, right? And every time somebody says Peter, like, are we talking about the animal rights organization? Are we talking about something that you wrap things in and eat it? Or are we speaking of someone named Peter? How do British people like figure that out?
You know what? I think they probably look at it phonetically and just, I don't know, make a decision.
I just figured it would be context based, you know, but maybe I'm wrong.
Do you know what the name, the self-appointed name for fans of the character PETA are called?
Please
PETA.
don't you dare say pedophiles. Don't you dare say pedophiles.
I don't have to because you just did.
Yes. Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do you know the ship name for PETA and Katniss?
What's a ship name?
Cat
like
piss?
A vessel?
It's the combined, like Bennifer when Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were dating the first time.
Oh, I mean, you're going to tell me anyway, but I don't want to hear it. But go on.
You don't, but I bet you could probably guess Katniss and PETA and Katniss, penis. Yeah, it's penis.
I was going to say cat piss. I like that better. I like mine better, you guys.
Yeah, that does not come as any surprise to me whatsoever. But yeah,
Can you believe that this only cost $10 million to make? So what else came out that week?
Did it really? That's actually really impressive.
Yeah, the budget on this one, $10 million. Again, no domestic box office to speak of because the release was so limited. Like, we don't even have the numbers for it. Like, the opening weekend, the box office goes to 109 and it doesn't fit anywhere on there. The number two movie in America, future episode of this podcast, the Farrelly brothers produced the Three Stooges.
Oh, that poor movie. It tried so hard.
Really Will Sasso, Chris Diamantopoulos, and Sean Hayes.
I can't wait. That's going to be an interesting episode.
Wasn't that the movie where they had like Sean Penn in line to play one of them, and like Jim Carrey?
It was Sean Penn, Jim Carrey, and Benicio del Toro were lined up to play
the select cast, and then like they all fell out at the end. So they picked everybody who had like the best impressions of the Stooges.
Correct.
Or something.
Yep, that's exactly what happens.
I didn't see it. Was it good? Was it any good?
I never saw it. I can't imagine it was.
Tucker, did you ever see it?
Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad movie. It's one of those that has so much potential, and you can tell everybody's trying really, really hard, but the material is just not there.
That's kind of the impression that I got from the trailer, honestly.
And speaking of that movie,
and I like all those actors individually. I need to say that I like all those actors individually. I'm gonna have a tough time sitting with that one when we do eventually get to it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of depressing because you see everybody just giving their darndest and like nothing. It was just like Fool's Paradise. Everybody was having a great time. Everybody was doing, great stuff, but it just fucking sucked. Like at its core. Like, it doesn't matter how good the stuff around it is, but the core of that film sucks.
Oh, that movie was not
everything
just
around it.
Produced by the Farrelly brothers. That movie was written and directed by the Farrelly brothers.
Yeah, I think that's when they decided to move on over to drama. After that, they figured their comedy career was over, I think. Oof. And they did the Green Book, right?
I think one of Peter, did the Green Book. Peter Farrelly did the Green Book, not Bobby, but yeah.
The more serious Farrelly, obviously.
Clearly, yeah. Oof.
Anyway, what else came out that week?
Anyway, God.
What was on the box
also opening this weekend at number 3. Honestly, a movie I quite enjoy. Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
The deconstruction of horror movie. Yeah, I kind of like that one. I like that one quite a bit, actually.
Honestly, I burnt myself out on it when it came out, so I have no desire to watch it for probably another 5 years. But it is an amazing film.
It's fun. It's
truly is.
I like.
Hang on. Can we pause for a minute?
Yeah.
It's possible for you to burn out on a movie, Tucker?
Absolutely. Okay. Just like music and stuff, but it depends on the film. Like something like Detention lends itself to multiple repeated consistent watches. Something like Cabin in the Woods was something where like we didn't really have anything like that when that came out. Not to that extent, So
I mean, it's another one that's it's very Easter egg dense, that movie too. Like there's a lot of stuff in there you can pick up on.
And it's another one. I think the reason that one got old for me and stuff like Detention doesn't is because so many movies after Cabin in the Woods came out just did the same thing. And sometimes maybe a little better at times. It's kind of like Pulp Fiction. Like when Pulp Fiction came out, that was the shit. And then everybody copied it. And now it's just like, it just seems stale. And that's Cabin in the Woods for me. I love that movie. It's brilliant. It's great. Its significance in film history and horror film history specifically cannot be understated. But it's been done to death since then. So I'm just not interested in watching it anymore.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you guys?
It makes perfect sense.
It does. I think it's a bummer, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Asked and answered. Thank you, sir.
Super bummer.
Yeah. Number 4, the re-release of Titanic in 3D, which earns $11.9 million this weekend. It's been out for, according to this, it's been out for 748 weeks. But it was in third place the weekend before. In 5th place, the last film in the American Pie franchise, American Reunion. Future unenfranchised episode on that, maybe. If we ever decide we want to stoop to that level. Rounding out the top 10.
William Scott, I'll watch Wrath of Becky. No big deal.
Fair enough. Rounding out our top 10, we've got Wrath of the Titans, Mirror Mirror, the Julia Roberts Cinderella or Snow White movie.
Hey, rewind for a second. Why was there ever a sequel to Clash of the Titans? Clash of the Titans was a remake of an amazing fucking film. I don't know if you guys ever saw the original Clash of the Titans.
It's on our list. The original is on our list.
Well, let's watch it right now, actually. Can we just put it on? Will we get copyright strike if we just put it on and talk about it while it's playing right now?
I don't know.
I love that movie, dude. Have you guys seen that? You guys seen the original Clash of
the
Titans?
I haven't seen it in ages. In like
the stop motion is amazing. It's one of those movies.
That's like the last Harryhausen movie, isn't it?
I think it might be.
That's like one of the very last ones. Yeah.
But it's one of those where I don't throw this term around a lot, but they don't make them like that anymore, boys.
It was really don't. Titans. That was his last movie.
They really straight up don't.
He retired.
Won't see anything like that ever again.
I'm glad he went out on top because that's a great movie to
dude.
go out on.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Bubo rules. Let's be real. Bubo rules. He was an uncredited supervisor on Mighty Joe Young, the 1998 remake Mighty Joe Young, but uncredited.
Wow, he hung in there.
He died in 2013.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, man.
How
was
old
almost
was he?
He was he was born in 1920, so he was coming up. He was in his early 90s when he passed.
Fuck a duck. Wow, he hung in there.
Man was a fucking legend.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Like one of his earliest films, I think, was Son of Kong. I feel like, or no, actually, no. One of his earliest films, his second film ever, was 1949's Mighty Joe Young.
Well, that's why they brought him back, man.
Yeah, to supervise. Yeah, for sure. No, fucking love Harryhausen. We will absolutely talk about the original Clash of the Titans one day.
I cannot wait. I love that movie so much.
To answer your question as to why there was a sequel, my guess is the remake made money.
I didn't really look. I'm the kind of guy who will give pretty much any movie a chance. You guys know me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know people are like, "Oh, it's a sequel," and I'm like, "Yeah, maybe sometimes sequels suck, but I'm still trying to look at it. Let's give it a chance, guys."
You're the guy who liked The Flash.
Wrath of the Titans. That I didn't really like the remake either. I saw the remake.
No, the remake was garbage. It was not worth it. It was dumb.
Look,
it was one of those movies. It was one of those movies that they forced into 3D when 3D was like a fad there for a bit. Like they took it back and forced.
Thanks,
and it
James
made it.
Cameron.
Yeah, right.
Right. I don't even.
Hey,
I mean,
before we move on from Ray Harryhausen, I have to say he's so inspirational to me. I saw an interview with him once when he was getting on in age. He was near the end, and he was trying to explain his interest in like monsters because he was the classic the monster maker. And he credited his how did he say it? His German Gothic bloodline he thinks is why he was interested in like the making of monsters.
I love it.
And I was like, okay, JP Leck's kind of a Gothic German guy too. But him saying that, I was like,
say it ain't so.
I was like, so maybe it's like baked in certain situations. But that was that's my Ray Harryhausen. That he's the best.
Yeah, no, he is. There, like, look, I'm going to try to put together a potential Ray Harryhausen theme month because there's at least one other movie I know or at least maybe a two-parter, because I know there's at least one other movie that we could cover of his that could have gotten a sequel that didn't. So, it's just the two that I can think of. But yeah, we'll do a mini Harryhausen like mini series at one point.
I'm way into that.
I kind of
that's my if I can invite myself as a guest for that, I wouldn't mind.
Yes,
that
sir.
Absolutely.
Guest. Let's do it.
Well, it'll be 2 weeks, but yeah, we'll have you on. We'll have you on back to back.
Okay.
First ever back to back guest ever in the show's history. In fact, can we just shout out? I think this is your 5th time on main feed, or is this only your 4th time on main feed?
Space Truckers.
So yeah,
what was the second one?
It was Space Truckers, it's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
This is the third one because you told me it was one that you didn't know anything about.
Polar.
One that you wanted to suggest, and then one that we should suggest. Right? So
it was supposed to be the first 3 were movies I had never seen.
Ice Pirates.
Okay. Yeah, we did 3 movies that I picked at random. Then you guys are assigning me 3 movies.
Yes.
We're on like 1 or 2 of assignment.
We're on 2.
Movies,
so
right?
Ice Pirates was the first one. Detention is the second. Pirates. The third one will be the return of Captain Invincible in November.
And then my next trilogy will be me bringing you guys movies that did not get. And I have some ideas for that actually. So we'll circle back to that later.
Yes, let's talk about that when we wrap this episode.
Absolutely.
Also in the top 10, so number 7, Mirror Mirror, and number 8, a movie I actually really love and saw in theaters, 21 Jump Street. I think that movie is hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, I liked it.
In 9th place, Lockout, and in 10th place, previous episode of this podcast, Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. The tomatometer score on Joseph Kahn's Detention is 43%.
It's way too low. Got it.
Very low. Critics consensus director Joseph Kahn's relentlessly kinetic style gives Detention a rebellious kick, but the overload of ideas keeps this genre mashup from ever cohering into a satisfying whole. Again, disagree.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
The Metascore is a 45 based on mixed or average reviews from 14 critics. And the Letterboxd score is a 3.1. Mr. Leck, as our guest, what do you, out of 5 stars, rank in 2011 or 12, depending on who you ask, Detention?
Oh, I forgot that we did this part. Well, like I said, it was about half and half. Can I do half stars?
Yeah, we do half stars.
You can do like 0.75 stars, quarter stars.
Tucker does that.
It's all game.
How granular can I get? I feel like 2.5 is too low for all the creativity that went into this movie. I mean, the blocking alone in this movie blew me away. I'm gonna give it a full solid 3 stars.
3 stars, right on. I did look at Brett's review on this episode or on this movie before we started this episode. He did have to step away, so that's why he's been rather uncharacteristically silent this episode. But he gave it a 3.5, which is exactly what I give this movie as well. I give it a 3.5 also. And Tucker, dare I even ask what you give this movie?
Give it a 12 out of 5.
All right. So a 5-star review from Tucker. So yeah, that is how we rank. So that's a 3.75 average for the 4 of us on that movie.
Which is fair. I would, if I were not me, I'd probably rate it about 3.5.
Yeah. Which feels fairly respectable. And you know what? On future rewatch, it might go higher for me, but right now it's a 3.5.
Maybe.
Honestly, as soon as I finished it, I was at a 3, and then I thought about it for like 25 seconds longer, and it was a 3.5. So,
solid. Okay.
So I was kind of like right on that bubble, kind of like you were between 2.5 and 3, Joseph. So I kind of.
I feel like maybe a Patreon special rewatch like a year from now is in order.
You know what?
That could be a lot of fun.
We'll do a yearly episode about it.
Yearly do.
You know what we could do? We could do a commentary track on this movie. Get the 4 of us back.
Oh, yes.
Get some popcorn, some beverages, some coffee
and
for you,
Brett
some beers for us.
Maybe have something to say about it,
Yeah, and we could hear what Brett has to say. So, and he unfortunately did have to step away this episode. It's a bummer. We do love Brett.
But based on his review and what he said in the group chat, he said he wasn't really sure if the movie was good or not, but he had a lot of things to say about it. So kind of sucks that he's not here. So maybe we'll get to hear those in the commentary.
Yeah. This is one of those movies. My initial thought when I finished it is, what the fuck did I just watch? But it's
kind of movie.
It's good to kind of talk about it with a couple of guys that I love a lot and have a great deal of respect for. Always fun to sit down and talk about a movie with you fellas. So thank you guys. Joseph, thank you guys. Thank you so much. You guys, Joseph, you are multiple people now. Thank you.
I feel like it sometimes. Oh, I feel like it.
Thank you for coming back for your 5th time on main feed. So welcome. Right. I think you're maybe the second person to ever get like 5-time on main feed. So rock on. Good for you.
Score for me.
But tell us about, I know there's some exciting things in store for the Endless Elsewhere. Tell us what you got coming up, what we can expect coming out of the Endless Elsewhere, what role certain podcasters that you know and love might have in that. What's going on?
All right. Well, the 2 big things we have, kind of, the vanguard of the whole Endless Elsewhere universe right now, is the podcast, which is doing very well. This year, we achieved the Silver Medal of Excellence from the National Audio Theater Festival, which runs the Here Now Festival. They awarded us the Silver Medal for our season 2 of the podcast. We were an early entrant official selection for the the New Zealand Web Fest. So we're going to be doing that this autumn. But the big thing, the thing that's kind of dominating our world right now, is we've been quietly working on our first feature film. We've been doing it for more than a year now.
I was going to say, we've been working on this and I say we because literally every member of this podcast has been involved at some stage on this.
Absolutely. Film. So if you like this podcast, if you like the 3 guys involved with it, you're about to see them on the big screen, and we're finally on the cusp of it coming out. Just this week, my Blu-ray maker sent me the hard copy proof, and I approved it. It's good to go. So it goes into mass production probably next week or the week after.
I cannot wait to get my hands on that. I am so excited. You have no idea.
I'm going to be shipping copies to you guys probably the day they arrive. And then hopefully,
I cannot wait.
Hopefully sometime in October, it'll hit the streamers as well. The aforementioned Tubi is the one we're really trying to land.
Yes.
The film, before it even released, we submitted it to a bunch of film festivals. We are the official selection of the Port of Fear Film Festival up in Wisconsin, as well as the Phobia Film Festival that's out in Missouri. We have 3 more festivals announcing in September that hopefully we'll get some traction in, but things are going very well for it. It's been very rewarding to get into these festivals, to have perfect strangers kind of validate your movie by saying, hey, it's good enough to be here. We want you to come to this city and we're going to show it to a big theater full of people, then get you on stage and talk to you afterward, which I'm a little nervous about, but that'll be fine.
No, you'll be great.
Bring
bring your wife with you. She's really good at talking to people. So
oh, for sure. She's going to be at my side every step of the way.
Wait, if I may interrupt for just a second, because that's my whole job on this podcast.
Please, I need to take a breath.
Did Lindsay watch Detention with you?
She did not. The poor girl, she passed right out.
Oh, no.
Tucker, that would not have been her jam. She would not have.
I can't see Lindsay enjoying Detention.
From what you know of my wife, do you think she would have enjoyed Detention?
Honestly, I've seen her VHS shelf, man. I don't know.
She can be surprisingly eclectic.
She has introduced Detention. Me to some weird ass movies, dude. I didn't even know what my boyfriend's back was until she borrowed me that DVD, man.
And
she would look that back, by the way.
That ignited in you a deep love of Bob Balaban. So,
well, no, actually, Parents did that. I just didn't know he had done another film.
Oh, he's done a few, yeah. Mm-hmm. Bob Balaban, prolific.
Absolutely.
But no, I mean, like I know that film has been a labor of love. I've been involved in The Endless Elsewhere for many years. I know Tucker's been involved even longer. Before there was an Endless Elsewhere.
Before it was an Endless Elsewhere, man. Like
before it was even an Elsewhere world, honestly.
We were doing Goner shit like in the 2010s, man. We weren't fucking around. Like,
remember that experimental film we worked on for a good long, the True Way Abandoned. You remember doing that every weekend for?
I've got the trailer's still on YouTube, man.
Is it? It is, isn't it? Oh,
it is.
So yes, Tucker have been.
Can we put that in the show notes, Tucker?
Sure. I directed that film, actually. Can I tell everyone here what our process was? Our process was that a friend of the show, JP Leck, would come over to my house and we would sit. Guest. And yes, we would sit in my basement. This was around like 2005, 2006, and we would sit in my basement and I would just chain smoke, and we would basically go through the screenplay together, and I would be like, that doesn't work, that works, but maybe we should do it this way. I don't like this, I don't like that. And then we would stop doing that and we would just hang out or whatever, and then he would leave and he would come back the next week with a new draft. And we did that for several weeks until I was like, yeah, this is it, this is the one, man, this is the one. And so we set out to film it. And we got a lot of stuff filmed, and most of the cinematography, I think that was mostly me, wasn't it? I feel like we both kind of had input. It was your camera,
so yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think I would hand it to you if I needed something from a freakishly tall angle.
When you needed those satellite views of things.
Yeah, yes. When I needed the crane shot.
Yeah, you were very tall, man.
What we discovered upon going out to start filming is that we really didn't know quite what we were doing just yet. So we've come quite a long way.
That is true.
So I think it'll be a very interesting exercise to watch this trailer and then watch the film, which we have not mentioned the title of.
Oh, I guess we should do that. It is now official. It is Circle City Supernatural, the movie. Now, if you are at all familiar with The Endless Elsewhere, this late night AM paranormal radio show has been kind of a fixture, a permanent fixture of The Endless Elsewhere.
Since the beginning.
Since the
very beginning, yeah.
So it's only absolutely appropriate and fitting and just beautiful that it's our first feature film. And it's a Halloween themed anthology. It's kind of a throwback creature feature midnight movie kind of thing. So if that's your job, if that's your thing, you might like it a lot.
And we should mention that when it is available, where can people purchase the Blu-ray for if they want to watch it? And let's be honest, if they're fans of this podcast, they absolutely should, because they will get to not only hear the voices of the hosts of the Disenfranchised podcast, they will get to see our mother-loving faces. And let's be honest,
you will see my handsome face, and you'll also get to see Brett and Steven.
It's our faces significantly less handsome. Let's be honest.
I didn't say that.
No, to be honest, my face is the unhandsome one. Brett is every bit as attractive as Tucker, if not more so.
I think we're all beautiful boys, and you can't tell me any different.
I'm the ugly duckling
there. I think if I can pat myself on the back here for a minute, I've made all three of you look incredibly good in the film.
I have seen 2 stills with my face in them, and I have liked both of them.
Yeah.
The one on IMDb and the one that you posted to Facebook.
My promise to everyone who helps me, because I am so low rent I can't actually pay anyone for the help. The thing that I can offer you guys is to make you look cool. That's like I can make you look good. That's like the best promise I can make. But before I forget, we keep talking about trailers. The trailer for the film drops next Friday, so the day after this episode is going to come out. So if one of you guys want to go back and put the link for it in the show notes, they can absolutely watch the trailer that comes out officially, finally, after so long.
Joseph, it will be on all the social media platforms. It will be on all the social. I will be dropping it across every social media platform that I have access to, both my personal ones and the podcast ones.
God bless you. I appreciate it so much.
But
yes, you asked about where it'll be available. It'll be available in physical copy first. I mean, we all love our physical media.
Hell yeah,
at endlesselsewhere.com. There'll be links to it. You can buy it. If you do buy it from us, you'll be getting it directly from the Lecks. Lindsay, my wife who stars in the film, she and I will actually sign either the Blu-ray if you want us to, but we also have about 50 11 by 17 inch posters, film posters that we're going to sign and ship off with like the first 20 Blu-rays. So if you're one of the first 20 people to get one, you also get an autographed poster. If that's any incentive.
You better send me one of those too.
Oh, of course. Yes, everyone who was involved in the film, you were all getting sent Blu-rays and posters.
No, I want you both to autograph mine too. You know how I get about that shit. I want you to autograph it too.
I've given you like books in the past, and you're like, you didn't sign it. I'm like, well, we're like friends. You want my autograph? And you're like, sign it.
Yeah, because I may get broke one day and need to resell it, so I need that autograph.
I think as the Disenfranchised crew, we should get together and pass our posters around. And have all of our signatures as well as Joseph and Lindsay's signatures as well.
You know what?
Absolutely.
If we are able,
anybody else, I could probably get Julie's if I wanted it.
Probably.
I don't know who else has let's get everybody on there.
You know what we should do? Let's try to go to the premiere and not only get those for ourselves, but let's try to get one to give away to as a giveaway for this podcast. So we could give away
rad as shit.
One signed by a poster and a Blu-ray signed by the entire. Let's try to see if we can do that.
That's a wonderful idea.
There's a premiere. Where is it? Can I go?
We're going to have a screening. It's going to be the last Sunday of October. We're actually going to have a screening here locally in Indianapolis. But
would you pick me up at the airport?
Of course I would. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to fly
swing
in,
that. I might be able to
swing that. If you want to fly in, I will absolutely come get you.
I am tentatively planning on trying to be in Indianapolis that weekend if I can.
Excellent. But if not, it's the screening that I'm organizing is kind of a big thank you to everybody who was involved. But again, by the time we get to that point, most everyone will have already seen it. I really hope the Blu-rays, of course, will be out by then, and I hope it'll be streaming on a bunch of the streamers by then, of course. But it's I really want to have it in a theater before spooky season is over.
And I have to see it in the theater. I have to.
No, I definitely want to see my face on a big screen. I can't pass that up.
I gotta see it in the theater, man. That's nuts. Crazy. Get out of town.
Yeah, I can't pass up the opportunity to see my ugly mug on a giant screen. I can't pass it up.
And I have to brag on you guys here before we're done. All three of you, I know Brett's not here. He had to step away for a minute. All three of you, I can never thank you enough. You have helped me realize my dream. You did insane things that I asked of you. For people, and the people listening obviously haven't seen the film yet. They don't know to what extremes we had to go. We went to some of the most far-flung, abandoned, crumbling places you can imagine and made films there and had lots of adventures. And
in literal dungeons.
And literal dungeons, and you can't ask that of just anybody. The fact that you three were like, yes, of course, absolutely. And Tucker, you came in from the East Coast, God love you. But just the fact that I could ask you guys,
Town bar. I had
to. that story's on my commentary.
Yes.
It's a whole thing.
Bitch over, man. Ask Monty, he'll tell you.
If just let me thank you so much, because it really did truly mean the world to me. And I know you guys, you love doing this, but again, it's just, I couldn't pay anybody. I could feed you, like I provided transportation, but that was about it. And I appreciate it so much. I really do.
Look, and you know this, I get offended when you do something and don't ask me to be in it. So
you know what? The thing you just said, also in the director's commentary. I was like, I think the line is something like he always insists I have something for him to do, and yet I still consider myself lucky to even have him. So
I love
you're always going to have something to do. You're always going to have something to do. Elsewhere.
Look, you wrote me a 1-paragraph monologue in a movie that you did, and it didn't even appear on screen. I did it all. It was all voiceover, and based on and you gave me that based on a movie I did with your brother.
Of course, yes, yeah.
And based on that and the conversation and look, you didn't know me from Adam, and you invited me to your house to record dialogue. Like, that's huge.
That's how let's work, baby.
And your wife gave me food, and like I met your kids, and I'm like, this is so weird. I love this. But we started talking afterwards, and you're like, I'm gonna give this guy more to do, and and by your own admission, based on my just general enthusiasm for the project, you kept giving me stuff, and I'm convinced that my love of what you were doing and my excitement for just like the world building involved there. Like, I started a wiki for the Endless Elsewhere at one point. I've not kept up with that in ages. There's been
that's all right.
But it's up there. Like, someone else can take the reins and do it. But like, I'm a legitimate fan of you and your work in addition to being a friend. So it's always fun and gratifying to be a part of something like that. And I've often said that one of the most gratifying things for me as an actor, which is something that I do as an amateur. I'm not a professional by any stretch of the imagination, or what I want to be.
You said doo-doo.
But one of the most gratifying things is to have a creator not only entrust you with a character, but continue to write that character with you in mind. And I feel like in that regard, the character that I generally play, I don't play him in the movie, but the character that I generally play for you, Keith Sorrells, has kind of become in a lot of ways, and some of which I'm not comfortable mentioning on mic, but in a lot of ways has become my alter ego. And I love that character, and I love being able to bring that character to life. So it's been really gratifying and very fun.
And yes, you're absolutely right. The reason that I constantly keep giving stuff to you to do is because I know that you love to do it, and I know that I can depend on you. We're kind of gaining some traction as far as, reaching a larger market, but we're still very small, and just having to depend on like my friends, people I know who are going to show up, but then also having those friends be incredibly talented who elevate my work to levels that they would have reached otherwise. I've just been incredibly blessed, and I just want to make sure you guys fully feel my gratitude, because it's not just, I don't just take you for granted. I'm like, oh, and they'll show up and do something. I really appreciate it, because I know it's a sacrifice. And I appreciate it.
I will show up and do whatever you need. If you ever want to, look, you said you're doing something in Wisconsin. If you find yourself driving through Chicago and want to stop for a meal, call your boy.
We may take you up on that, actually.
Because I am not far from the city, and would love to, even if you don't want to stop in the city, we can meet in the suburbs somewhere and just like hang out and grab a bite and just catch up. But yeah, I would love to see. I always love to hang out with you, and I hope to get down there to the premiere in October so I can see it. And I cannot wait to hold that disc in my hands, and I'm pretty sure my parents will probably also be ordering one as well. And in fact, past and future guests of the podcast, Andrew Johnson shot me a text just before we started recording, asking for more details on like where it was going to be streaming and where he could watch it as well. So,
that's so nice.
Like,
I have to tell you, my Blu-ray, my manufacturer overnighted me the proof, and just being able to actually, put it into the Blu-ray player and watch it. They did such a good job on it. The menu is amazing and it plays so well, but to actually finally get it, it was just so exciting. But when we first get that first 100 copies that they're going to ship me, I will be almost immediately sending them out to you guys, because I know you guys want to see it, and I haven't been able to show you. I've only shown you bits and pieces, and I'm just very excited for you guys to see it as a whole. I'm very proud of it.
Legitimately, I think I've only seen 3 scenes. I've seen Matt's scene, I've seen Brett's scene, and I've seen the one that your kids shot. I think those are the only 3 that I've seen up to this point. I know Tucker's seen mine and maybe some others.
Absolutely. And I have Tucker's actually appears last in the film because his has a couple of special things about it that I'm not going to spoil here. But he and I went on quite the adventure making his part as well. And I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to spoil anything. But it all has turned out. Buy the
Blu-ray and listen to the director's commentary. So
absolutely.
And who knows? Once the movie comes out, there may be a Patreon episode or 2 about it behind the paywall. For our patrons who we love very much, there might be a special Disenfranchised at the Movies about Circle City Supernatural. We might try to get Joseph back and see if he'll do a commentary track with the 3 of us. Maybe a separate one just for our patrons. Maybe, I don't know. We've got some stuff to talk about, but there will absolutely be some Circle City Supernatural content behind the paywall when that movie does drop later this year, for sure.
And it's and what the one thing I really want to do is, we've had, of all the things I've done, because I've put short films out there, I've written books, we did the photographic comic books, but the podcast is the thing that has really seemed to capture everybody's. It's really blown up. Actually, if I can do a little side thing here,
please.
I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but August our numbers have begun to explode.
Nice.
This week we started averaging 100 downloads a day. We are right now.
That's amazing. That's better than we do on a weekly basis, honestly.
We are and this is in real time. I'm looking at it right now. We are less than 40 downloads away from reaching our 10,000 milestone, which for a show with only 15 episodes and incredible. 2 Halloween specials, it's not bad, because we're very low. We're not associated with any networks. We don't have any studios behind us. We are literally recording, in an old laundry room in our house. And again, that's stuff that you guys have helped me make. So it's our shared success. It truly is. And I love being able to share it with you guys. And again, I'm just so appreciative of you always showing up and always helping me make this thing that I just love. I live for this thing that I was given to do in this world. And you guys have helped me realize that dream. And I'm just, again, I've said this 1,000 times, I'm just eternally grateful.
Look, the pleasure, I'll speak for myself here. I don't want to speak for my cohorts here, but the pleasure is all mine, man. Look, you called, I'm there. I have yet to say no to you, and I can't imagine myself ever doing. And I said the same thing to your brother. Like anytime your brother asked me to be, even if I don't like the script, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Absolutely. Why not? Like I'll show up and I will. I love working with you guys. I love working with you in particular. Like, you always give me good stuff to do. You've given me like some really challenging stuff to play. I've told you this story in private. I'll tell it in public now, but one of the radio plays that we did together is part of the reason why my partner and I are together in a really weird roundabout way. Like it's kind of an incredible thing. So like it's meant so much to me to be a part of it. So if I can gush right back, thank you so much for doing it and for allowing me to be a part of it. Like it's something that I continue to love and enjoy, and I will do it until you tell me to stop.
Which I don't ever plan to do.
Please don't.
All right. Well, now that we've gotten all the gushy stuff out, Tucker, please cut everything that we said in the last like 3 minutes.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna
any of this public, and this is let me speaking from the heart, and it's embarrassing.
Let me give you a little behind the scenes from the editor's chair here. I don't think I've spoken for the last 15 minutes.
Which may be the quietest you've ever been on this podcast.
You best believe there's going to be some cutting going on. Because
contractually, Tucker can't go that long without talking. That's like in his contract.
Just an example of who your boy is. When someone says, "Let me show you this picture," I say, "Am I in it?"
Accurate.
So that's kind of how I edit this podcast.
I believe it. Yeah.
No, I would never cut that out. But if it weren't that, I would.
Honestly, respect.
Whoa.
So you can actually find all of Joseph's socials at endlesselsewhere.com. Links to all of his socials, links to literally everything he's ever written, ever filmed, ever recorded. It's all there on the website. Check that out, endlesselsewhere.com. We'll also put that in the show notes, along with a lot of his socials as well. We are the Disenfranchised Podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Facebook, and Threads at Disenfranch Pod. We also have a Patreon account, patreon.com/disenfranchpod, where you can find the aforementioned weekly show, What Are We Watching?, where we talk about things that we've watched in the previous week. And of course, if you want that great Circle City Supernatural content when it releases, that's the place you need to join. $5 a month will get you access to literally hours of bonus material behind that paywall, including our Tucker and I's episode on Weird the Al Yankovic Story, a movie previously mentioned on this episode. So
a very dark time, yes.
Or no, I guess that was on the What Are We Watching episode. Whatever. We talked about it earlier. You may have heard it. You may not have. If you want to hear what we said about it, go to patreon.com/disenfranchpod.
Because it's getting a physical media release. That's why he mentioned it. Because I had said headline. That in the Patreon only podcast that we recorded before this. Go to patreon.com/disenfranchpod if you want to hear that.
That's the one.
And we got the trial going on, man. We still got the trial going on.
We do. I haven't taken it down.
Sign yourself up for a trial. Forget to cancel it and just enjoy.
You will stick around. You will stick around. You'll want to stick around. It's a lot of fun.
If I can jump in real quick, I can say as a patron, these guys are so good about their Patreon feed. They are like supplying you weekly additional stuff. They don't lapse on it like certain other people who have Patreon accounts who don't always necessarily keep it updated. These guys will.
We're not going to mention names or anything
all the time.
I love going to the Endless Elseworld Patreon because your patrons are just so grateful whenever you drop something. You're like, oh man, it's been months. Oh, from the sky, it's falling from the sky. Like they're just like,
hey Joseph, remember when you only used to release content in October? Like,
good times.
We'd go like a year without hearing from you at all, and then you'd be like, "Here's 5 stories and a novel, and 3 short films," and then we're like. I think at one point I sat you down. I was like, Joseph, you realize there are other months in the year, right?
For Joseph Leck, there is only October.
Are there though?
There's only October here. we Lecks live in perpetual spooky season. That's just how it is.
Having been to your house, you have 2 modes in the Leck household: Halloween and Christmas, sometimes at the same time.
Absolutely.
Weather.
Like November is a wild time at the Leck house. Speaking from experience. Those are the 2 modes all year long, and I'm not even exaggerating on that a little bit. You can also shoot us an email, disenfranchpod@gmail.com. Let us know, what was the thing I said earlier in this episode? If people wanted to hear something, I don't remember. It's probably not important. That podcast about All-Star. That podcast about Smash Mouth All-Star. All-Star podcast, please, in the subject line, disenfranchpod@gmail.com.
Don't do that though, because I really hate that song and that band, and I don't want to talk about it. Maybe give us suggestions for other.
I'm not saying you have to be on that podcast. I'm just saying, I would do that.
Yeah,
podcast.
I do though. If I'm available, I do. It's in accordance with disenfranchised law, man. Damn.
Under the bylaws.
Let me check the sacred tablets.
Yeah, dude.
Yes, it is engraved here that he has to be a part of it.
So shall it be written, so shall it be done.
So shall it be done.
Yeah,
dude. God, that's funny. And so, hey, find us on the social medias, connect with us. We do love to hear from you guys. So hit us up, let us know what you think, and let us know if there's a failed franchise starter you would like to see us cover on the main feed. We should mention there is a sequel hook at the end of this movie, Aliens, specifically the Canadian guy.
Gordo.
Just Gord.
Who only eats
Not
baby
Gordo.
Animals.
Just Gord, yeah.
Who only eats baby animals.
But he's from a vegetable.
Lived long enough.
He's from a plant-based society, so he finds eating vegetarians to be offensive.
Well, you eat our sons and daughters.
What a fun
great.
Fun
He's
reveal.
So great.
Wild, love it.
And as the theater usher, when they're debating about like the contract not to, and he's like, "That's not how a capitalist society functions."
And you don't even know it's him until you get the thing at the bottom. It's like Riley Gord, and he gets an extra point. Like he has 2 points to her 0. You can find me. Hi, I'm your host Stephen Foxworthy. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. God, what else am I on? Blue Sky, Threads, other shit. At Chewy Walrus. You can find Brett, my absent co-host, at sus_warlock on Instagram and Letterboxd. Tucker, where can we find you on the socials these days?
Same old. I don't have a blue ski, but I'm still on YouTube at youtube.com/ice909. That's ICENINE, the number 0 and the number 9. I also have a team of great people over at Tux Mugs that produce content constantly over on Instagram.
Constantly. It never stops.
We're always working on it. It takes a while to publish. We got to really carefully curate what goes on.
It's photography, it's writing, it's really art is what it is.
Hey, you joke, but we have one in the pipeline.
Where am I joking? How am I joking?
I have a post that I'm saving for Tuesday. Curating, my friend.
It will have dropped 2 days ago as of the release of this episode.
The team over at Tuck Mugs, we don't just put out an Instagram post, okay?
We curate in Instagram.
We think hard about it. We put it together, make sure it's perfect, and then we have to decide the perfect time to drop it. So nothing is accidental at Tuck Mugs. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
so
nothing ever gets forgotten or left by the wayside.
No.
It's all very directed, very intentional, very deliberate.
Yes, and if that sounds like something you're into, and if you also like mugs, like straight up go to Tux Mugs on Instagram. It's at Tuck_mugs.
Yep.
And that's just on the Insta scams. And it's just a fun little page where I post pictures of mugs. I tell stories about where those mugs came from and tell you what's in them mugs.
Mm-hmm.
And Tuesday is going to be a wild one.
Can't wait.
Saying what's in the mug. This is something we've never experienced before in a mug on Tuck Mugs.
Oh, that's wild.
So you're going to have to follow us. Go to at Tuck_mugs on Instagram and follow us so you can find out what is in this mug, dude. It's not even my mug. It's Jimmy's mug. It's not even my mug, dude.
We love you, Jimmy. Thank you for submitting a mug.
Yes, thank you, Jimmy.
And that is all she wrote for the Detention episode of the Disenfranchised podcast. Joseph, once again, thank you so much for deigning to join us. Again, this is probably the dumbest thing you'll do for a long time.
It's truly not. It's truly not. I promise you that.
But we thank you for taking the time and for popping in to see us. We'll see you again in November. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Disenfranchised Podcast. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, from my co-hosts, Brett Wright and Tucker, and our very special guest, Mr. J.P. Leck. Until next time, go see Cinderella 2 on Friday night, losers.